right, good evening, everybody. Can we go ahead and stand for the pledge? Rich, you ready to go? Rich, you good? You ready? All right. All right. We'll take. We'll wait. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, yeah. All right, I'll go ahead and get started with the president's report. But before we get started in the rest of the agenda, just a reminder for everybody that we will not have a board meeting in November, which is customary for us due to the holidays. But we will meet next as a board meeting group on Thursday, December 8th, 7 p.m. That's the first Thursday of the month. Just to give you a sense for kind of what's coming the last 2 months, because we've had a busy planning process, particularly with the budget, on top of all the projects that are ongoing. We will share in December more education on our 23 budget and the subsequent projects that are getting approved with that. We learned a lot with the Leadership Council, getting more input from the committee chairs and other leaders across the community. And one of the things we definitely learned is I think we've improved the understanding of how the budget works and where we've got flexibility and where we don't. And we'd like to pass that on to the community. We're actually thinking about recording that, putting it on the website. So if anybody wants to educate themselves, that comes in new, or maybe they just don't know, they've got some place to go to listen to the background on the budget. So I'm going to talk about two areas: the base budget real quickly, as well as escrow for future expenses, because I think that's where the greatest amount of learning has been. So on the base budget for this year, we've got two major expenses that we have not had to incur in the past, and that is the significant increase in healthcare expenses to the tune of 74% increase to cover all of our employees, all of our valuable employees. And then the other one is the COLA increase we're looking at based on the COLA numbers that have been released, trying to keep our employee base wanting to work here, affording to work here. Those are two big items that we have not had to deal with in the past. And that caused a lot of scrutiny of the budget to make sure we can take care of our staff. So on the escrow budget, moving to that, we're going to go into the year planning on about 500 to 550 in escrow. And for those that aren't aware, Rich, you got a question? Oh, I'm sorry. For those that aren't aware, the items that are approved for next year under that escrow budget, and it gives you a sense for how fast that money winds up in a burn rate. Roads at $200K, Willie's Docks at $70K, updating the dam infrastructure of $50K, additional vehicles of $60K, and then technology infrastructure improvements of $70K. Those five categories are $450 grand. So when we start thinking about, oh, we'd like to fix the erosion issue in the community, and let's say it's 300 to 500K, there's no dollars for that unless it's coming from escrow. So we, as a community, currently have a finite amount of work that we can do coming off of escrow. And then if you start to think about roads and the increase in road cost based on current inflation rates, that's a number that can fluctuate significantly to keep up with the expectations of the community. So we spent a lot of time separating those two. So let me switch gears. So we've got good news to share, and we have chosen not to take a dues increase in January of 2023. Last year, we took a dues increase as well as an amenities increase. And I wanted to share on behalf of the board and everybody that's worked on these budgets what our reasoning is. First of all, we chose to really scrutinize every line item of the budget. Big dollar amounts, small dollar amounts, they all add up. So we looked at all of them and decided, what is absolutely necessary against our base budget to be spending on. The second piece, I'm glad Kevin's here because we've exchanged some notes, but we're very, very sensitive to the rate increase that was delivered by VRUC in the past week or so. And Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but most households will see $15 to $20 a month increase. that's up to about $240 a year. So even though it's a separate board, and even though Kevin's board was kind of handed that rate increase from Greendale, it's still the reality that we consider as a board as we listen to what Kevin's dealing with, and we say, okay, well, how does that hit a household? So that was part of the reasoning behind not taking a dues increase and just squeezing what's absolutely necessary next year to operate more conservatively in a high inflation type environment. And we don't know what the end of that looks like. If there's any economists in the room, we'd love to chat about that. We're just being extremely conservative. So let's talk about July is the next period. So from the beginning of the budget year in January till probably the end of April, we will watch very closely week to week, month to month with Marla and Dave and the finance committee, how we're trending, how we're utilizing the dollars, where can we save? Because right now we have a penciled in dues increase of 5% in the summer. And when I say penciled in, it's been proposed. Kyle will be presenting the budgets tonight for approval. We don't know what the right decision is. We're going to give ourselves some time and see if we can't save our way to make that as minimal as possible. But to give you a sense for it, if we take it, it's going towards escrow for future projects and future needs. And the example that I give you is if we take a 5% increase, that impacts the escrow budget pretty significantly, somewhere between 15 to 20%, depending on the increase. So instead of having 500,000 to work with, you may have 600,000 to work with. So as Kyle has explained to me and the rest of the finance committee in our meetings, it's all depending on the projects we take on. Can they wait? Do they need to be done next year being 24? It's trying to plan for the future, but the core budget is what you get in Hidden Valley today. Drastic improvements take place from the escrow side of the equation. Okay, so we will keep everybody updated, and I would expect, just due to the nature of the financial environment going into next year, we will probably look to talk more about the budget month to month of how we're actually tracking, so that if we wind up taking that increase in the summer, nobody's surprised, and you'll understand the rationale and can kind of speak into where we see the opportunities to spend a little bit more on the escrow side of it. So thank you, everyone. And I want to especially thank the Leadership Council. We had 2 meetings on budget. It took a lot of time and a lot of extra evening hours, and its committee and other leaders that are already doing a lot of work. So we appreciate the extra time. Kyle and his finance committee, they were a big part of going line by line and scrutinizing everything and making a recommendation. And certainly Marla and Dave, if you ever spend any time with Marla and Dave on the budget, you're in great hands. And the scrutiny is there on a daily basis. So I think we do a pretty good job with that overall. So I do know that from the Leadership Council and feedback that we continue to get, the expanded collaboration should serve us well moving forward, not only managing into next year with increasing costs, but long term. The more minds we put behind the budget, the more we understand the needs of each committee, the better we'll be able to deliver for all the homeowners that will enjoy Hidden Valley as we know it and what it looks like in the future. All right, any questions on that? All right, we will move to Jeff and the treasurer's report.
Thanks, Scott. Okay, financial position for the month of September 2022. On cash position for September 1st, 2022 is $1,076,538, and the ending cash for September 30th, 2022 is $866,808, and those are rounded figures. Any questions?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jeff. Pat, secretary's report, please.
Could I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our September meeting?
Motion it.
I'll second it.
Thank you both. Are there any questions or concerns? I'm not looking at you. Okay, Tom. Yes.
You do have one, or you're joking? You
No,
have
I
one?
do.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I thought you were carrying it over from last time.
We're just hounding and harassing you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, good.
I actually asked this.
Dave, well, you're sir on the community manager report.
Our Halloween trick or treat.
from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The November elections, another scary event, will be on November 8th. And we, again, will be hosting at Willie's. A couple of you caught that. That's good. Again, we're hosting at Willie's. This is all part of the county's kind of scaling everything down and not having so many precincts. We'll have several precincts. I'm not sure which ones that will be represented, but now you're allowed to vote in any of the precinct places. Infrastructure management. If you drove on Alpine today, which you had to do to get here, you probably saw some road work that's being done. Again, we are repairing some of the ruts in the road this year. This is not a complete paving project for Alpine. It's more of a repair and shoring up for the eventual repavement. Our pool liner replacement project has begun. It takes a lot longer than I thought it would. It sounded pretty simple. You just put a new liner in it, right? But it's kind of a complicated process. It's kind of fun to watch these guys work, and it's coming along pretty nicely. We'll be renovating the docks at Willie's over the winter, and our maintenance team will be working on that project very shortly. We will be opening the sluice gate and lowering the lake as of November 7th. So we're asking that you'll remove boats off of the docks by then, if you could. Golf course, we've had a very dry fall so far. That means more watering than usual, but it also means we've had more rounds played. And earlier this year, because of the rain in the spring, we were down on rounds. We're now catching up, and we're on about 1,000 rounds short of last year's numbers, which is pretty good. And we may actually attain that number. Let's see. The office will be closed Thursday and Friday for Thanksgiving on November 24th and 25th. We, as an office, are gearing up for the POA board election season. We have 2 seats that will be open next year. There'll be announcements in the online version of Echoes, a banner on the home page, a listserv, and it'll be advertised on the exit sign various times throughout November. Rich Gannon and I met with the fiber optics people, some of the major people in the various groups. We have some very public issues, especially on Alpine, that they've promised to address. They've done a lot of the work that we've asked them to do. There's still a couple of the more complicated ones that they're still working on. There was a question, I think last month, on our yard waste dumpster. Again, we'll keep using the dumpster until we pull all that yard waste out. If you go down there and the dumpster is full, you can put it next to the dumpster where people have been putting it, and we'll fill the dumpster as it comes in. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, David, thank you so much. All right, we'll move to committee and clubs. Mr. Cross, you can start us off.
Thank you. Good evening, all. I'll start with the request that I made earlier about the second reading.
Yep.
It is a bylaw change. It addresses section 4-11-7C. It now reads, the primary driveway between street and garage and/or house on all new construction must be serviced with a suitable hard surface material such as blacktop, concrete, pavers, etc. We felt the etc. left some areas there that weren't good. We'd like to make the change to have it read, the primary driveway between street and garage and/or house on all new construction must be surfaced with a suitable hard surface material such as blacktop, concrete, or pavers, period. That would be the request on that.
I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye. Tom, could you be sure that you get a copy of that language it's changing to Alicia so she can capture it in the minutes?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, we have quite a few performance bond returns this evening. Before we get there, we do have one variance request. It's for an 8-foot variance for a deck. Actually, it's just a corner of a deck on the rear elevation of the property, James Moore, lot 3276. It's located at 19271 Hampton Drive. The Architecture Committee would ask that the board approve that variance.
And you guys have been to the property?
We have, yes, sir.
Let's go ahead and ask for a motion, a second, and we'll go ahead and vote at the same time.
I'll go ahead and start it. if you
Jeff?
want.
Yep. Doug in a second? Ken did. Thanks, Ken. You got a second that? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now the performance bonds, we do have quite a few this evening, so in the spirit of expediency, I will just give you the lot number and the amount of the bond. I'll preface that by saying that we have no outstanding dues, fines, or fees on any of these properties. We'll begin with lot 1708, bond amount $2,000. Same lot, 1708, bond amount $500. Lot 2539, bond amount $500. Lot 506, bond amount $2,000. Lot 661, bond amount $500. Lot 2519, bond amount $2,000. Lot 2773, bond amount $500. Lot 1790, bond amount $500. Lot 3342, bond amount $500. Lot 1886, bond amount $500. Lot 771, bond amount $500. Lot 983, bond amount $500. And finally, lot 1146, bond amount $500.
Can I have a motion and a second to approve as read and then a vote?
I'll motion it.
Got the
You
first
second.
one from Jeff, second from Ken. In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0, Pat.
Thank you.
That's all I had this evening for architecture. Anyone have any questions?
Awesome, thank you. Mr. Paul, judicial.
I would like to thank Scott. Thank God for moving me up in the program.
No problem. Bonnie's next.
Normally at 9
Yes.
o'clock, when you're all saying, let me out of here, and I'm sort of saying, yeah, me too, is where we've been. But we have some very important issues to deal with tonight. And we will be dealing with changing the, or at least alerting to the board of changing some of the board rules about violation notices and citations. As you may recall, we had a simple issue on a boat sticker. And when that came through judicial, we took the position that they have been educated, that they have to sign a sheet to get a sticker. And one of the questions on there is, do you have to put a sticker on your boat before it goes into the water? Anyway, on the approval, or I'm sorry, on the appeal to the board, we discovered, and I'm not sure, I don't think it was there when we first came, but the rules on education, warning and cite. Those are good philosophical things to do when we think we have somebody violating a POA rule. So again, that was supposed to be, and I've talked to you about this, about the education role, warning, and citation. But if you look at them carefully, and you might be able to read it if Rich gets it up there. If you can't read that, they're in the minutes of today. And there are 3 steps. One is to contact the person who thinks that there is a violation, or we think that there's a violation on his property. Okay, and 2 weeks after that, if no change has been done, whatever the violation was, then you warn them. Put out a warning. And then after 2 weeks of that, which is now a month already, you finally get to write a citation. And then it will go to appeal, and then they'll ask for a delay, and it will be like 6 months in some of these cases before you can get a citation passed. Now, that might work for some things, but it doesn't work for a deputy catching somebody speeding 40 miles an hour in the ball courts or by the pool. You go there, they write a ticket out, and they send that in. But we could have them coming to the judicial committee saying, you didn't warn me. I haven't been educated. And you have to do those things, which take probably 6 weeks if they're spread out. And then you can finally write a citation. And that is not a good idea. These things are in the rules. I think when they enumerated them and put numbers on them. And it looks to me like something was missing because we never behaved that way on the judicial panel until this case came up where they said, you haven't educated me. And how do you tell the police officer on an appeal, you didn't educate him? It's not going to work. So what we came up with unanimously is to drop all of that from the violation notices. And that'll be on the screen showing you up there. And it was something that is followed by architecture. Generally, that's the path they followed. And it also might be worth for some of the Dan Tester, the enforcement officer, for him to follow up. But that should be at their discretion. And what you'll see, if you look at the 2 different parts of this, we've deleted all of that. That's what we're asking for. And what we're replacing it with, we're not deleting it without discussing it with our lawyers and without the manager. You might think it possible to put every single type of thing that could issue a citation from the boat patrol down. And the problem is that leaves gaps there that any good lawyer could probably punch his way through. And the suggestion, and what we're going to apply to do for that, is to put if you look at the last page on this, is to move the rules on citation, warn, and issue in the police training. So this philosophy for the police, and we'll have to ask community manager about that, will be to train them to think of the way that they are supposed to operate under their own discretion is either like the architectural committee and give them the rope to do what they want, or the same thing for Dan Tester. And you say, why do you have to have rules for enforcement of Dan Tester stuff? Well, we had a case where there was a tree hanging over the neighbor's porch. And they simply said they weren't going to do anything about it when they were contacted. The enforcement officer then issued a warning, and they didn't do anything. And then you issue a citation. Now, that's a 4 to 6 week process. And then they appealed, and it turned out to be a 6-month thing. And the tree they did finally take it down, but it could have fallen. It was a dangerous tree, could have fallen at any time, and yet there was nothing we could do about it. So I'm asking you to consider changing the rules, and you'll see them in there. They're all written out as what they were, what we're asking to be changed, and what the final rules are going to look like.
Okay, Rick, can I interrupt you there?
No, just let me get the last part and then I'll let you. What it does,
Okay.
only, you still have the ability to report and go to a hearing in front of the Judicial Council for an appeal. And then you can go with also to the board, so they don't lose any of their appeal rights. What it does is it shortens it up from a ballpark citation to whatever is comfortable with the architectural committee and what is in their discretion. And with that, I'm sorry, Pat, I didn't mean to stop you, but I would get so lost if I had to.
Oh, that is all right. But this is a perfect illustration of why we are reviewing our bylaws, because this will not be in our bylaws at all. Scott announced last month that he had given me the enviable task of redoing the bylaws. And I've met with Jared Eubank, and the first step is to take out everything that is a process, because the bulk of what is in those pages, or at least a very significant part, is just very prescriptive as to how we do things. But guess what? We're human. We don't always do them precisely as written. And we need to have processes that are standardized in place for people to follow, but they shouldn't be in the bylaws. The bylaws should be pretty black and pretty white. Thou shalt not go 45 miles an hour by the pool. And if you are, we're not going to educate you. We're not going to warn you. We are going to hand you a citation. That will be how the deputies proceed. These, Rick, were originally intended for property maintenance, because those of you who have been here a long time realize we went an awfully long time without any guidelines on property maintenance. And so it was an extremely difficult thing for people to wrap their minds around. Somebody is going to come and hang a door tag on your door or send you a warning. And so we attempted to make it as painless as possible. It's really very sad that they are being used in this way, because it is clearly not the intent. So that will be coming out. This will not be in the bylaws in any way, shape, or form. What process we follow. We will have processes. People can see what those processes are, but this is thou shalt not and thou shalt, not 30 different ways of doing it. So anyway, that is all I wanted to add to that. It is important that we take this out now.
You could have saved me a lot of anguish and hustle if you said
You know,
that
I
two days
tried.
ago.
I tried.
I've been working on this for for a week, how to bring this up.
No, all it means, we are going to, the bylaws are a work in process. I hope to have them done before I leave the board. But
You have what we,
I do, and we should still vote on that
vote.
tonight,
We'll
because
vote on
we are going to, in the interim, vote to remove this, okay?
yes,
And
sir.
I will make that, yes.
Hold on one second. The other thing I want to add is, I think everybody probably understands Lake Patrol and the deputies on the roads, that's a whole different environment, right? So we're giving those people the ability to do their jobs. I don't think the training to Dave's deputy will be difficult. That's what they do every single day. But it also helps, Rick, the judicial process. Like, the board's gonna review process. If the process and the due diligence been followed, we're not looking to overturn anything. And unfortunately, the way it's been set up, we've kind of been forced to do that when we don't follow the process exactly. And so some people may say, well, you're not following the rules and enforcement. Yeah, we are. But if we don't follow this process, we're kind of stuck. Same thing, Tom, when you guys are trying to act in a black and white environment, we want to give you some gray so you guys can make decisions in your committee, and it doesn't have to come to us to be overturned. So the intent is to put the effort down into the people that are doing the work, that are on the scene and see it firsthand, not to put the board in a spot. Not that we're afraid of that, but it just, we all look really bad. And that parking sticker one was a perfect example, not the boat sticker, not the parking sticker. Any questions before we vote as a board? Go ahead. Introduce yourself, please. Name and lot number,
Dave
please.
Laborvo, 1566, 1567. Section 331, the last sentence needs to be corrected. So to read, it is important that members of the association have the opportunity to have their case heard in appeal if they so choose, not starting the sentence with after that,
Okay, good. I like that. You got it.
because it, after that pertains to everything that got taken out.
That's good. Rick, are you good? Are you good with that?
And
Yeah.
thank you, Pat, for all your work. They gave you a lot to do, pushing you out the door.
You know, really, they did. They're gonna keep me busy.
Okay. Any other questions?
Is this a first read or second?
So,
The first read.
but in the future, it would be a process tweak, which doesn't need to go through the same process. And we'll hope everybody kind of catches that as well. We want first and second readings on bylaw changes, not process changes. Yeah. Tom?
Do we have a targeted timeline on the review and
Yeah.
You go ahead and I'll add.
Well,
I think he's got this pretty
Well, you know,
nailed down.
Scott told me I couldn't
Oh,
leave the
geez.
board until I did,
Before
and
they
my
push
term
you
is
out.
up next April, so.
Okay,
I have had a fire lit under me. I've seen the light. And so I am going to work diligently. I will be meeting with you and with all the other committee chairs between now and then to go over your section,
Yep.
what you own in the bylaws, to look at their validity, agree with you on what is processed and kind of come out and what is not. So you should watch your email box, because you'll get a little invite, and I'll leave it up to each committee chair as to whether he or she wants to do this as a committee or initially just meet with me one-on-one.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it's better to have an initial cut and take that in for discussion and debate rather than try the discussion from many different points of view.
The other, Pat, if you don't mind, the other thing I'm going to add is we're going to go to more of a town hall format in December on key initiatives. This will be one of them. If we go back and look at the minutes over the last 2 years, the majority of the bylaw issues and or process issues that have come up will show up in the minutes. Like it's like we need to create them. And so we'd like to kind of get through these reviews and then give people a sense for what we're really talking about. Because we start talking about bylaw changes and process, people think, oh, we're going to go into a community with half the rules. No, we're trying to get more clarity and make it simpler for people to understand what the bylaws are and aren't by just separating the
Yeah, so-
process side of it out.
Yeah, so one more thing to add, now that you know that Pat's gonna be working on this, don't wait for the email from Pat as the committees start thinking about what you would want to change. I liaison with the safety committee and I don't envy their role because their safety rules are scattered throughout all the bylaws. There is a safety section, but they discovered the dog rules they're all over the place. So don't wait for Pat to contact you. It's that way you're ready when she does.
I guess my work is done here.
So yes,
Yes. So what I'd like to do is ask for a motion.
I'll
and
make
a
the
second
motion.
and a vote
I'll
on
se-
the.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll second it. We'll decide the room a bit this time. Actually, it's a first. She first did it.
It's the first reading.
First
Oh,
reading.
okay, I'll
First
first it then.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you all.
All right. So we did share last month that we agreed with your concern about it. So we should have probably followed up with you. But the explanations for people that weren't a part of it, I think, are super helpful. So thank you for doing that. Okay. Kyle Packer. Come on down, Kyle. Did I make
Yeah.
it easy for you?
Do number 1, 2, or 3.
You like that? Scott just told all the fender stuff. I just have 2 items. So we're going to approve the September financials. We've approved the committee level both for the POA and for the golf course. So recommending approval.
Yep.
of those.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Who was the first and second on that?
Yeah, I'm
Scott?
sorry. Jeff and
The Ken and Jeff show.
The Ken and Jeff show,
yeah, those two
okay.
guys are on it.
All righty.
I can't see Ken. Okay. Next part.
And we're also recommending approval of the 2023 budget after much work, debate.
Yeah. Is there anything from your chair? I know Donna's here. Is there anybody else from finance? But anything else you guys want to share about the process and comfort zone? I would love to.
I mean,
I'd love to hear more. Anything we didn't cover.
so I'll do two things. So first of all, probably, so I think this is probably the 10th budget I've been involved with. I've lost track, but probably more work and effort went into this round and more debate than I've ever seen before. And I think it's just kind of the nature of where we are as a world, the cost and things like that. So I personally and the group and everybody has probably spent more time on it than they've ever spent, good or bad, probably good. We did have two leadership presentations, which I think the feedback we got was beneficial. So I hope it was. I think that was great education for everybody. And that's the summation of it.
Okay, great.
And I think, Scott did actually talk about, how the board had multiple executive meetings, 3+ hours to go through line by line. And there was a great communications between the finance and the board on this when you have Dave, Marla, involved, coming back and forth with all that too. So it was great teamwork.
And to echo Scott, Dave and Marla do a wonderful job with this. They spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, answer a lot of questions, do a lot of the heavy lifting for us. So thank you. Marla's not here, so thank you. All right. That's
Anything you guys would like to share being a part of it?
I agree with everything.
Okay.
Donald said.
Yeah, and I don't know that we'll back off that thoroughness in the environment that we're in, and probably good in general, even when things aren't quite as exploding cost wise. So appreciate it.
Just make one comment
Yeah.
about we were reluctant to recommend a rate increase. But after looking at everything, looking at the inflation.
Yeah.
Things like the roads need a lot of work. They need more work than what we're basically doing right now.
Yep.
Looking at all of that, we thought it's better to maybe have like a 5% increase this year rather than let it go for a couple of years and need a 15 or 20% increase.
Yeah, I appreciate you adding that. We should have covered that. The longer you wait, the harder it is, right?
Exactly.
So, thanks for that,
Can I
Donna.
ask a question?
Yeah.
Was there, what the finance committee did, is that indeed what you, the board, approved, basically, or?
That's
was
what
there
we're-
changes?
yes.
Well,
That's
Kyle,
what-
maybe you can give top lines, the major decisions that were made as part of the budget.
So the biggest guidance we gave was the COLA increase recommendation for the year. The healthcare increase that we saw. I do know the board went through some line items here and there, and kind of the guidance we gave them is, it is a budget. It's a pretty big number. You can take some out and you can add some here based on needs. But the general guidelines of what the revenue number is going to be and what the overall spend is going to be is what we're approving in the major categories.
Right.
Yeah.
So Donna, I think Scott said it was a 79% increase in healthcare costs.
74, I think
Something
was the
terrible.
number. Yeah.
But there is a 5% cost of living adjustment to the salaries here that was agreed to as part of this budget.
One thing that hopefully the community starts understanding too, the escrow part, and Kevin could probably back me up on this. They got hit with that large increase mostly because Greendale did not do their due diligence on their escrow. And that's where we didn't get a really good explanation, but that's could be one of the causes of that, where that came from. So it snuck up and they said, we need to catch up. So that's why the VRUC got blindsided and had to pass it on. So that wasn't something the VRUC was sitting back on and go, oops, we made a mistake. We need to fix this. This was handed to them in their lap and said, sorry, deal with it. And that's where we are. And I think we were 2 months behind. We've been paying for it out of pocket already 2 months. So VRUC was already 2 months behind on that increase.
But that affected Greendale as well.
Greendale, yeah.
right?
Yeah, my mother-in-law lives down in Beckett Landing in Greendale, and her bill went up like $15. And she's just a single, person home. So yes, so that came across, but that's where you get into escrow if you don't manage that properly, and all of a sudden, ooh, we got all this money we need to come up with, in Hidden Valley with Kyle and finance team does a great job of managing that. Thanks for that.
I think to the spirit of Donna's question, I think we should share on the healthcare side, right? We're getting hit, so's the employee. So we had a lot of debate on that. So you take that plus the COLA piece, and we did make the decision we would cover them, their portion as well, and make them whole. We did the math behind that, work that into the budget, but we've also communicated and have signaled we're not going to be able to continue a healthcare program like we have currently. And so we're going to have to get started early at looking what the options look like. And it may be an environment where we move to a private insurance environment and we provide an allowance to go towards that coverage. But continuing to do that as a small business, and I know you've talked about this before in your prior board life, we talked a lot about. So while we're taking care of them this year and working hard on retention, everybody does know it's going to have to change in the subsequent budget year. What that looks like, we're going to welcome all the help in the world.
Yeah, it's a
Trying to
tough
transition
decision.
that. That's a tough one.
Interestingly enough, the healthcare budget across the nation went down a 0.1%.
Yeah.
So you might have to hunt for a better source than change the way you're delivering it.
Yeah.
But both Kaiser Permanente and the national
So
level, it was a surprise to many people that it didn't go up.
So I don't want to share a whole lot of detail because now we're getting into personnel stuff. But as a small employer, one person with a major issue puts you in a really, really bad spot. And that's part of what we're dealing with. And you can only assume that's going to continue. So we're kind of stuck just based on reality. So lots of transition to come on that. All right. Any other questions?
Sorry, Scott, one thing.
Yeah.
Just, have we considered for things like roads, an assessment, a one-time assessment? We've done that in the past, for things that require a major expenditure, then it's not a hit to your dues, it's not lasting.
Right. Not
consideration.
repeating.
Yeah.
We've definitely talked about it, and I think we'll need to continue to talk more about it because I don't think we're going to get out from underneath this in 1 year.
Right.
That's kind of the guidance from the finance team. Yep. But yes, but probably more conversation needed as to what's the best approach. Anybody else before we vote on the 23 budget? So can I ask for motions on that, and we'll go ahead and vote at the same time. Jeff on the motion.
Ken.
Doug on the
was
second.
Ken.
Oh, Ken did.
It's the Ken and Jeff show.
He did it again.
It's a Kenny Chef show.
Yeah, it is.
You guys rehearsed in advance.
Can I third it?
No thirds.
No third.
No thirds, John.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great job. Thank you guys and everybody involved. Mr. Lortz, future planning.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm George Lortz, Lot 1882, and Chair of Future Planning. We have some really good news tonight. We have two new members to announce. One is Mimi Fee. Mimi is resident of Hidden Valley, a longtime resident. She and her husband have both owned and operated businesses, and we think she's going to have some great ideas to lend to the committee. She apologizes. She couldn't be here tonight. She has. Anyway, welcome, Mimi. And the second person is here. Kevin Grossi is going to join us. Kevin is, as you know, chair, maybe president of the Civic Club, as well as a lot of other activities here in Hidden Valley. So Mimi and Kevin are new members. Any questions? Okay.
George, do you mind if we need to vote on those? You mind if we just do that real quick, get that out of the way, or do you want to wait till the end?
Sure.
Yeah, so motions and vote at the same time on the two new members for future planning, please. Got it. Thanks, Ken.
Just keep it simple.
This is getting tiresome.
They're on top of it.
You know what? I'm going to fill out these minutes before we
Go
even
ahead.
start. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
So Kevin, welcome, and Mimi, welcome.
Thank you.
Kevin, are you bored or something? You must be bored.
Can't say no.
You can't say no. There you
I
go.
know that feeling.
Sorry, George. All
He
yours.
doesn't have enough to do, does he?
Yeah.
Okay, 50th anniversary celebration, Pat Task Force headed up by Pat. This year, I did a little count. This year, we've been involved in 11 different events, which surprised the heck out of me when I started adding them up. And I'm not even sure I counted them all. And we're going to, Pat's going to summarize those at the December meeting. So happy birthday, Hidden Valley. And we'll hear a final report on that in December. There is one additional thing we are going to do this year. The 50th anniversary task force voted to help with the front entrance refreshing. And they are going to, we're going to spend a little money to power wash the entire front entrance. We think it's going to make a huge difference. And thank you. The front entrance task force thanks the 50th anniversary task force. Okay, the POA communications task force, which Rich heads up. We've been spending most of our time recently trying to enhance and work on ECHO's improvements. We have restructured the ECHOs, as you've probably seen. We're still going through some gyrations to figure out the best way to do that. The delivery of the ECHOs, the decision has been made to continue to use the newsstands for the rest of this year. Make a final decision on that starting the next year. It seems to be working okay. We still are getting a large number of hits on the online version of the ECHOs. So people apparently are still very interested in that form of receiving the ECHOs. But there also are an encouraging number of people that are picking up copies from the newsstands. We have also talked about putting copies of the ECHOs in some of the local businesses. Willie's, for example, the restaurants that are over here at the front entrance are a couple of examples. We have just experimented with that a little bit, and needless to say, the copies are gone within a day or so when they leave them there. So that may become another alternative. Dave commented on the fiber optics progress. Thank you, Dave. The community master plan and land use plan, that's something that unfortunately we've been kind of ignoring the last 2 or 3 years. I'll remind you that the community master plan itself is the long-range plan right now for Hidden Valley. So I would encourage each committee to look at your particular interest within the community master plan and make sure that's still the way you operate. Is that still a guideline for how your committee operates? And if not, we'd be very happy to help you with some rewrites of that. Pat has announced the board's intent to rewrite the bylaws, and we've done a lot of that in the past. And Pat, we continue to offer our help on that if you need it. Facilitating town hall meetings, we've kicked this around a lot this year. We've done 2 of them already this year. We think there's going to be a need for a town hall meeting to discuss the front entrance. There are some very radical ideas being floated around about what to do with the front entrance, and we would not want to propose anything that the community itself may not be interested in or have serious objections to. But other than that, our committee stands willing to assist anybody who wants to sponsor or conduct a town hall meeting. And finally, the ALCA activity. ALCA stands for the Ohio Lakes Community Association. We belong to it for some unknown reason. But the bottom line is we've not heard anything from them in a long time. Ever since COVID hit, there have been no announced activities at all from this organization.
we made an informal offer to help them in 2023 that we've not heard back. Where Alka stands at this point, whether they're even in existence anymore. So that's way on our back burner. If we hear from them, we'll do something, otherwise not.
So George,
That's-
one thing on the future planning in the community master plan and land use, the master plan is not on our website. The land use is, unless I'm looking in the
I
wrong
think
place.
they're all on there.
Well, I was just looking a little bit ago. And you can see the bylaws, you can see everything, but the community master plan is not there on that list unless it's buried somewhere else in the website. But where I would expect to find
I haven't
it-
looked at recently, but both,
Okay.
all of them are on the website.
Maybe they're
so-
combined in the same doc or something, because I was just looking at it a few minutes ago in here.
Got any suggestions, Jake?
Yeah, when you go under governing documents, that's where I was. The community master plan was not there, but the land use plan was.
Okay, I
So-
will check.
Yeah,
on
so
that.
check on it. I might be wrong, but
Yeah, we'll
if it's
check.
not, if you
It
want the
was
committees,
on there at one time. I
yeah,
know
if you
that.
want the committees to look at it, I just want to make sure that, verify
Right.
that's there.
Right, we will look. Thank you for the heads up. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks, George. Eric? All right, Lakes Committee, a couple things. The first item up there is the fish study. That was done on October the 11th, and the results are in. So I circulated that with the board and the Lakes Committee, and a couple of key volunteers in the Fish and Game Club. What I'd say further about that is we're not going to have a Lakes Committee meeting in November. We're going to replace that with a presentation from our biologist, Alex Ress from Jones Fisheries. So we're going to set that up, look for more information coming on that. Again, it'll be instead of the normal Lakes Committee meeting, and we'll have a presentation. He has some suggestions about things that we could be doing differently, and of course, there's some expense to that. So I also want to take this time to thank our volunteers who are working on the Small Lakes Task Force around Crystal Lake in particular. They're doing a heck of a job. We've had no treatments in that lake for the last month and a half or two, which is very uncharacteristic for Crystal Lake. They've done a tremendous job in working to clean up the invasive species around the lake and try to replace those with some natives. They put a vegetative island in there to help soak up some of the nutrients that flow in and out of that lake. They've been working on, thanks to Don Norris, who was doing a clean and check on our compressors for the aerators. They've been very busy there in terms of measuring things, and they're actually keeping tabs on some of the key metrics like oxygen, dissolved oxygen that's in the water, and water temps, and all the things that we would want to know about the health of that particular lake. And it's looking better than we've seen it in quite some time. So again, it's a little early yet, but preemptively, it's looking like the measures they're taking there are doing very, very good things for us. And we'll next look at how we're going to expand that to the other 5 lakes within the community, the small lakes that exist, so we can kind of do a better job of cleaning those up and making sure that they're presentable, they're natural, and they're nice to look at and live on if you happen to live there. Sluice Gate. Dave mentioned it. November 7th, we're opening the gate. Water comes out of the lake. Have your boats out. That's kind of that simple. In particular, though, with the Willie's floating docks and the replacement, it'd be really helpful if people could get them out on or before the 7th. There weren't many left down there the last time when I took my boat out on Monday. It would really help for the guys that are doing this from our maintenance team, give them a little bit of a break. There's more water. They can float them across to the marina and pull them out over there. It'd be really, really helpful if you're a Willie's dock lesser. If you could move your boat, faster rather than. I'll also say that a couple of us, Ken Horn, Dave, and I took a trip up to Indian Lake just yesterday, actually, to have a look at their eco harvester. It was a terrible day to be there. It was raining sideways and windy and blowing, but we all had a great time meeting with Tom Longenhals from the Indian Lake Watershed Project, and it was quite a productive meeting. We learned quite a bit, and we'll be reporting on that in the near future. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm assuming that residents can, the presentation that the biologist is giving, residents can come and listen.
Absolutely. We'll send that out to probably an email from Rich. We'll probably send that out that way.
Can I suggest this? Because we talked about a couple other opportunities on education to put on the site. Rich, could we consider, Dave, of recording that presentation so that it's something that can be put on the site and more folks that are interested that can't be there can absorb the info, because it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Is
And this
that-
year was a lot more concise. It's a little less sciencey in
Yeah,
terms of the output. So I think it's a nice thing for the
So
community.
just a consideration. I don't know if
That's a
that
great
fits
idea.
with your guys' workload, but it might be interesting to capture more of that learning.
Yeah, we can also post it on the website, the actual not the presentation,
whatever
but
you
the
guys think.
report.
Yep, that's your call.
Any other questions?
The only other question I have is, and I know this is ahead, but last year we struggled a little bit with Willie's docks that would be done and the closing of the gate for the lake to fill back up in the spring. I just want to ask us to try to get in front of that a little bit.
Mhm.
I don't know how long the Willie's floating docks piece is going to take and how much is impacted by weather, but we should probably at least consider thinking through that so we can try to hit the date.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the plan is to reuse the frames for the most part, do a little refreshing. You'll be replacing the entire decking with a concrete decking, and all the floats are going to be replaced.
So it could be, depending on weather, it could be.
Yeah. Weather will be the determining factor because we'll be working on them in the parking lot over there.
Yep. Okay. I know that's a ways off yet, but it just,
It's good to have that on the plan.
we're both looking at him. He's like, don't look at me.
Yeah.
All right,
No
Eric.
problem.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Amy, Parks.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Okay, let's just check and make sure we're on the same page. We have a new display sign that will have our main map. And I believe we are putting it by the playground. Is that where it ended up getting marked? Did John? By the dog fountain. And what it will have will be a big map, and there will be a QR code. So you can pull up all the other maps. We met with Rich, came to our meeting, and he's going to video the trails. So we ended up, we'll have another QR code for each of the trails. And I think you're in on that too, right, Doug?
Yeah.
Which will be nice that you can get the main map on your phone or a specific trail that you would want to use also with the QR code. So you don't get out there and you're lost. And, or we discussed maybe having the video where you can actually see the trail before you even go on it, which I like surprises, but hey.
Hey, not everybody does, right?
You know, not everybody does. So that. Did the guys get the post yet for that? Okay. But it's in the works, so that's good. Let's see, where else am I at? The pool liner, Dave touched up on that. They're coming along, and it is a longer process than what we thought. But I think they're doing a good job, right, Dave? They're nice guys. They're doing their job. So, and it's fun to see the process. Nora's been there, making sure that everything's, you know, on the up and up, and she's actually done a great job with documenting and keeping everybody in the loop. And we are still working on the Bluebird Trail. Anybody that wants to volunteer, call John Getzendanner and he can meet you out there on a Saturday or Tuesday. I did want to bring up the campsite. Please use it. It's nice. We've been working on it. We've been cleaning it. You do need to notify the office. I would assume Alicia would handle that, right, Dave? And they 48 hours notice on the campsite. And then Dave can give approval on the golf cart, because obviously normally we don't allow golf carts on the trail, and that would be up to your discretion, right? We have never approved that? Okay. It does say that in there, I believe, so maybe that's another thing we need to go over on the, you know, on the bylaw thing. So that's it, I think. Oh, no, I have to thank you guys for the doggy day. I want to thank Tanya from Paul's. We had $190 donation, and I thought that was great for such a short notice. Everybody loved it. Didn't have any problems. Thank you. That was great.
Thank you. Good job.
Yes, George.
Hey, quick question. Are the individual campgrounds recoverable or they just completely?
Number 3 is ready. We were just out there. I need to probably take the blower out there and get the leaves out. But we repaired the picnic table. We've cleaned it out. The fire, it's all ready to go. 1 and 2 are not, but number 3 is. I don't think that's really a big issue because it doesn't seem like there's been a lot of use. They're using that main, I call it the zoo campsite, because where you can just walk around and look at everybody camping. But number 3 would be right off Goldfinch, which is a nice area. You're away from everybody. You're not in. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No?
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Okay, Bonnie.
Okay. I'm reporting for safety, security, and elections. We opened our meeting last week welcoming Linda Connolly, who she was a veteran member of the committee, and she had to resign for personal reasons, and she requested that she be initiated back in. And the committee voted unanimously to accept her. So I don't know if she needs approval.
Yeah, we just do a quick vote if you're okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll first.
I'll second it.
Hey guys, you're sleeping down there. They got you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, Bonnie.
Okay. And then we have a new task force for the refinement of the golf cart rules. And maybe I should get with Pat to find out exactly what we need to do on that. But Don Norris, myself, and Linda Connolly are members and volunteered for that project.
Okay.
And Don Norris is keeping us up to date on the Crystal Lake, which you've all heard about. We are going to be working on a first draft that Becky Lortz and Dave Bushmiller presented. They've been working on gathering and refining the rules for dog regulations, etc. And so they presented that, and we hope to make a dog letter and put it in with the welcome basket. At our next meeting, we're gonna go over all the different aspects of it.
Okay.
And try to get something going as soon as possible. We are also working on the further justification for removing the stop signs that we requested several months ago. And we received a request from Dave Wisman to put no long-term parking on streets and in the rule about road blocking. You know, you can't block the road more than 18 feet. So he would like that put in there.
Okay.
Just to make it have a little bit more grip.
Okay. All right.
And that's it.
Can I just ask one question?
Yes.
On the golf carts, do we have anybody in the task force of the three of it that actually has one?
Don
Yeah,
does.
Don
Don
does.
does, okay, great.
Yeah.
I was just hopeful we'd had the actual owner of a golf cart that could talk in as well.
Right.
Okay, that's great. Great. Dave?
Do I need a microphone?
Please.
Dave Bushmiller, 2715. In working on the dog letter, and I don't know if I'm going rogue here, so I got a good contingent of people from my committee. We were looking at the dog rules, and since Pat, you were talking about the bylaws, this is something that I've kind of talked about a little bit, and it's near and dear to me. In the bylaws, section 621 is has a set of definitions as it relates to dogs. Subset J number 3 outlines what we in the bylaws define as a vicious dog. Two parts of that outline that the dogs attacked or killed someone or attacked and killed someone else's pet, which I would 100% agree with. Number 3 in that states that a vicious dog would be, well, I'll read it word for word. Any dog that without provocation and subject to the exclusion set forth below meets any of the following. And number 3 is that it belongs to a breed that commonly requires additional homeowners insurance. Now, I kind of went through and did a little Google search and just came up with some of those dogs, and that would include a Rottweiler, a German Shepherd, a Doberman Pinscher, a Great Dane, an Alaskan Malamute, Cane Corso, Boxer, Staffordshire Bull Terrier, American Bulldog, Bull Mastiff, and there's a number of others. But I would stand to believe that there's a good number of homeowners in here that own dogs of that breed.
Yes.
And so the issue then presents itself when you go to a later section, section 6.5, an animal assessment schedule. 6.5.3 states that if an owner or harborer's dog or dogs are found to be vicious, then the following assessment will be levied against the owner or harborer. A $250 plus the owner or harborer will be sent a letter declaring that their dog or dogs will be advised that they must be contained. And then if an owner or harborer of a dog or dog has already received a warning letter as prescribed in Part A of this section, and there is a subsequent violation, any rule herein set forth by the dog or dogs deemed to be vicious, then a $250 assessment plus removal of the vicious dog from Hidden Valley. And this was amended in 2018. Now, I would vehemently agree that if the dog has attacked somebody, that we should assess them, fine them, and if that keeps continuing. But by the definition that we have of the vicious dog just belonging to a breed, in that definition, if you actually read technically word for word, you could go to somebody with a German Shepherd, fine them $250, and then go take their dog. So I think that that's something that really needs to be looked at and taken into consideration, just that have the breed section of that definition removed.
Mhm. Yeah, those are generally considered to be bully breeds, but like any breed, there are good. There are those that are not trained and who have the physiology and let's just say the strength and jaw capacity to hurt people if they are not trained properly. I'd suggest what we do with that. There are ordinances on the books in Dearborn County as far as companion animals that we start there. They certainly are messy. And I am not aware that we have had many, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, instances here where a dog is biting someone or attacking someone. Ours tend to be a little more benign as far as things like barking. Dogs that are barking 24/7. Thankfully, those have been our issues. But yes, I'd be happy to work with you. But I'd suggest we also refer to what the county has on its books
Yeah, we talked about this a
as
little bit.
far as dog rules. Because, one of the things, and we are criticized very often for the length of our bylaws. But part of that is because we tried to make it simple for residents, where we pull out applicable laws from Indiana or Dearborn County and incorporate them into kind of a one-stop shop for what's going to govern you. I mean, the reality is our bylaws would be much less lengthy if we just took all of that out and said, hey, you're on your own to navigate what Dearborn County says you can and can't do, or the state can or can't do. That's a philosophical part of going through all these bylaws, and dogs are clearly an illustration of that.
Yeah, we talked about that when I was on the committee meeting, talking to you guys on that. So just to give you guys a feel, there's 121 instances of the word dog in our bylaws. So it's scattered. Like the dog wrote and put himself all over the place. So yeah, work with Pat on that, Dave. So we, like you said, we haven't had any major incidents. I don't want to wait for one, but it's not urgent that we have to do it right now. But let's get them done before April. And that'd be a perfect example for what SSNE would be working on for their portion of the bylaws.
It's really barking and dogs roaming around because the batteries in their electric fence collars died.
Yeah.
And so they are 2 or 3 blocks over, walking themselves to wherever.
I think one of the other common complaints is an animal's been left outside when it's 100 degrees outside, or it's
Yeah, that
sub-zero.
gets into neglect.
Yeah, so there's all kinds, that's scattered throughout too. So good luck.
You know what, Scott? I may have to resign for another term. I don't think I'm.
As I listen to this, I'm like, there's no way we're gonna get all this done by April, but good luck.
I mean, that was a condition of my parole, right?
Yeah, exactly. But we'll make progress.
Okay.
You don't have to get it all done, Pat. We won't think less.
Yeah, but the dog part has to be done.
The dog part. Okay, Mark and Kevin, are you guys both gonna talk civic? Okay, all right. And then Mark, you're gonna talk about the Christmas. Okay, thank you.
Yep, OC Lot 114. Here's our new officers for the Civic Club. Steve and Denise are moving, so I'll be president, Mark Smith, vice president, Steph, the treasurer, and Leslie will be the secretary. So I guess you guys have to approve that. Is that
These we know, just do members.
just be aware of what that is.
Is Mark new? Mark's new, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just one, right?
And
Leslie.
Leslie is.
Yeah, so
Yeah, why don't we just
Yeah,
vote
quick
to
motion.
accept these
She
4
always
members?
was.
yeah, so motions please and a vote all at the same time to accept as these are written up here. 1, 2 down there. All in favor?
Aye.
They're gonna expect a trophy, Eric, when this is over. You know how those guys are. All right, thank you. Thanks,
Real quick,
Kevin.
We've got the calendar of events. I've got copies for the rest of this year. Kind of a new event is tree lighting, and Mark's
It's
gonna.
not gonna look like that.
It's really gonna be. It's something new we've never done, and the whole idea of the Civic Club is to have individuals kind of take charge of activities that they're really passionate about with the full support of the overall Civic Club. It's working wonderfully. And Mark is going to take this one on. If you want to talk a little bit about what you had in mind, it's going to be, we're trying to get maybe even a Santa and carolers and involve the community. It's going to be a really fun event. We'll have a little more details as we get closer. The date on that is December the 3rd from 5 to 7. Kind of down the walkway on the edge of Willie's, the gazebo, and I don't know how far we'll go, but there'll be hot chocolate, just a lot of fun things.
Yes, sir.
So,
We thought we needed some more things to do.
well, we're excited about a lot of fun things that we got going. We haven't really developed a really close connection with those guys. I mean, we welcome them to be part of it, but
I just thought they had a Santa. I don't know what they had.
Yeah, they do.
we'll follow up on that. to make sure. We also have the Jingle Jam Dance. Actually, before that is Halloween party this Saturday from 7 till midnight at the golf course. Rich sent out a notice on that, so everybody's welcome there. Please come. And the Jingle Jam, which is kind of the Christmas dance on December the 17th, also at the golf course. And then, of course, we have our Polar Plunge on January 1st. So there you go. Cool. So that's what we got. And then the whole calendar of 2023, if you're interested in what we got going, a lot of the same things, some new things. It's on the website, I think. If not, there's copies here.
So let me ask this, just to get out from a problem this summer. Have you seen anything related to the lake? I would ask on behalf of the board that we make sure before that gets published that Lakes and Eric has had a chance to look at that and understand what the expectations on the lake are, and make sure they're in agreement with you guys. We ran it, like, not that we don't want to do any and all events, but we ran into some problems this past summer with things being added last minute that people didn't understand was coming until it was too late to change it. Same thing, yeah.
Well, the same thing with the parks too. So trails or whatever,
Exactly,
Santa,
exactly.
Easter Bunny, anything. We've got a couple committees that have things.
Because I know that, for instance, to rent the pool, we don't take reservations this early. And I know that Nora's got some things scheduled for next year. So just to go over with the pool manager, make sure that all the dates are good.
Kind of a common connection is Alicia. She's got our calendar, so she kind of schedules a lot of the rooms and the.
Yeah, but the problem is she's not connected with the committee, as an
The
example.
big issue is we shut the lake down.
Yeah.
Perceivably too many times. Okay. In too short a time frame. So you cut out people who want to take their kids tubing and skiing. So we just want to make sure that we have that scheduled out.
A balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, maybe if somehow in your guys' flow, Kev, if the three of you could just connect and talk through the calendar so we don't make some of the same mistakes.
Lake is probably the biggest coordination sort of event. Yeah.
In the pool, right? Yeah. Thank you for that.
Real quick on VRUC, can I take just a few minutes to see what's going on?
Please
Is this
do.
your time?
Yep.
Everybody should have got their rate card, and Scott, your numbers were just a little high in terms of what to expect. Around $8 a month for your minimum bill, and around $15 for the typical. And what this is strictly a pass through from Greendale is kind of the broker of the water, as well as they pass on the sewer onto South Dearborn Sewer District. And that sewer district is where all the improvements in the infrastructure is happening, $20-some million. And they've kind of let the maintenance get down probably too far. And at some point in time, you can't keep band-aiding it. So what they've done is put together overall, improve everything. And the result of that is Lawrenceburg's paying for it. We're paying our portion. And that's how it's all going down. So we're just passing that through. We have our own cost of living adjustments. We have our healthcare additions that we're covering that with around the 2 or 3% raise that you see in March. So there's no additional. That's how we're managing our overall internal costs with that raise. This is strictly a pass through that we aren't marking that up at all. So
Kevin, how many months will it take you to recover the escrow shortage? And then will that $15 a month surcharge drop off our bills?
Well, that's a great point, because we've actually made an inquiry to that exact effect, because there's something in the numbers that don't quite add up with what we've got from Greendale, to be quite honest with you. They seem to be not really open with where all the numbers came from. It's like a $700,000 yearly sort of addition instead of about 10%.
It was 75,000, 75,000.
Right. So the numbers don't quite add up. We have really no choice to accept this pass through. If there's an adjustment, we'll have to make adjustments down the road. So there's some uncertainty right now in all of this, just for the reasons you say.
Yeah.
So they didn't really have enough of an escrow along the way, so they didn't really have the rate increase that they maybe should have in favor of now kind of a big blast that's hitting us. So it's about, sewer increase is about 18% is what you'll see on your bill, which is 2/3 of the bill, and 1/3 is water. Water is not going up until March. That's when our normal 2 or 3%. So that's what we got. There's really no negotiation. Yeah, Donna.
Several years ago, probably 5, 7 years ago, I know the VRDC, some of that meeting, they were talking about replacement of the water tank tower. Are you escrowing for that?
Actually, we've covered that in operating expenses. It's not going to be a replacement. It's simply recoated it. It wasn't as bad a shape as what we thought. So the rust was managed with coating it and repairing it.
So
it's,
you have a 20-year life.
we'll have at least 20 to maybe 40, 50 years on the water tower. Now, the big thing is the infrastructure for the water lines. The sewer lines, we've replaced those. We're putting together an overall plan that would cover that. It's going to be nearly as big as the sewer. We're trying to get some type of government reimbursement for infrastructure. I'm not sure if that's going to be successful. Just do the Greendale, Lawrenceburg. So there's going to be some type of funding for that down the road. We aren't sure what that looks like. We're trying to stay ahead of the game to minimize that loan, but it's going to be a pretty significant loan. We have to, again, manage our costs on that too, as best we can.
So Kevin, and I apologize, I will take your numbers of the 8 to 15 and change my report
Okay.
to align up.
Okay.
So
it's
it's
the
actually,
same thing that's on the card.
yeah, so if I took the average, it's like $11 monthly, it's about $138 a year. Our rationale is still the same, that's significant when we try to take a $50 dues increase, so that our rationale wouldn't have changed.
Right.
Because I think we were talking through 15 to 20 when we talked about it in the budget meetings. Okay.
So any other questions? Feel free. Bill Nyer is our new general manager, by the way. Floyd Ogden passed away here, 6 months ago. Bill Nyer is an amazing guy. He has been in the water and sewer business for 20 some years. He's the mayor of Harrison. Sharp guy, somewhat reserved, but if you have any detailed questions, his number's on the card and feel free to call or stop by. Class act guy.
Christmas. The Christmas one before.
Okay. So Kevin, if you don't mind, we're gonna vote on the Christmas event.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll hold on the 23 calendar until you guys have had a chance to review it. Is that good?
Sure.
Okay. 1, 2 down here.
Thank you.
You know, this is getting tiresome.
You should know where to write it. Rename
I do.
Pete and repeat down there. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. All right. Any old business? Any new? Motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Yeah, same too.
Same two. Thanks, everybody. Great content. We're working on it.